What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single Tuesday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the Global Wrestling Network. And ahead of WWE Money in the Bank this coming weekend in Chicago, which I will be going to, today we're talking all about the 2017 installment of Money in the Bank. So that being said, real quick plug here, in the description box down below, click on that link, you get every WWE pay-per-view review I've ever done, from WrestleMania 1 up until this pay-per-view right here, Money in the Bank 2017. And there you can check out all my other reviews of Money in the Bank from 2010 up until this one, 2016, whatever. So check those out if you haven't already. And there's been a lot of good Money in the Bank pay-per-views. I thought this was one of the better pay-per-views WWE did in 2017. Overall, I did not think 2017 was a great year for WWE pay-per-views. There weren't many like blowaway shows they did, but I thought this was one of the better brand exclusive events they had done in 2017, all things considered. So real quick on the kickoff show, you had the returning Hype Bros beating the Colognes in tag team action. Fun for what it was, got decent time, good for a kickoff show match. Then actually opening the show, we had the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Yes, the first ever Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. The combatants included Charlotte Flair, Natalya, Becky Lynch, Tamina, and Carmella. And admittedly, my hopes weren't too high for the match. I had always said that not that I was down on the idea of a Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, but if they did one, it had to feature the right people. Carmella is really not that good. Tamina is downright terrible. She is fucking awful. That being said, she wasn't too bad here. She wasn't hurt. Nobody was hurt. They didn't take too many risks, which is what my fear was with this match, especially with Charlotte. She does a lot of crazy shit, doing, moonsaults off of ladders and off of fucking Hell in the Cells. I thought she would kill herself here. Thank God that was not the case. They played a safe match. It was a real good match that could have been better with a better finish. There really wasn't one obvious winner here. I did think Charlotte was going to win, so Carmella winning kind of took me by surprise, but I liked the finish. She was a fresh face in the Women's Championship picture. She still is as of this recording. She is the current SmackDown Women's Champion after cashing in that same contract 2 months ago, 2 days removed from WrestleMania 34. The finish got a lot of people talking, so again, very good match. All 5 women had solid showings. Some better than others, like Becky and Charlotte, and maybe even Natalya better than Carmella and Tamina, but they didn't hurt themselves. They didn't do anything stupid. That was really all that I was hoping for, and they succeeded in that respect. So then we get to the finish, where Becky was climbing up the ladder before she was taken off the ladder by James Ellsworth, who at that point in time was serving as the lackey for Carmella. So he gets involved. Carmella's on the ground, in the ring anyway. James Ellsworth ascends the ladder, retrieves the briefcase, and drops it down to Carmella. So as a result, she wins the match. So this led to a lot of debate and argument amongst the fans on social media, in attendance, the referees. They were all saying, oh, she didn't grab the briefcase, so it doesn't count, blah, blah, blah. It was the guy, she didn't retrieve it. And it was like, it's the same rules apply for every ladder match. You don't have to retrieve the title as long as one of the people in the match ultimately gains possession of whatever the prize is, whether it be a championship or a briefcase or what have you, a contract. Even if it's on the floor, then that means they win the match. Like, in my opinion, like when I saw this finish, it made me think, to an extent, of that ladder match we got at TLC 2010 between Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, and Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. Kingston and Swagger were going at it on the top of the ladder, and they grabbed the belt so aggressively. It was obviously planned, but they grabbed it so aggressively the title fell down on the ground, so Ziggler grabbed it, and he won the match. Now, I think he was supposed to catch it like Carmella did here, but he went over, ran over to the title and grabbed it, so that means he won. It was kind of a lame finish. It was something different, but the one thing with this match was the whole thing was like, it was the first ever historic Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and then they give you a shit finish. Now, it did lead to a rematch on SmackDown, which I would say was probably just as good as this one. I think Ellsworth may have gotten involved in that as well, if I'm not mistaken. But no, I thought this was a good match. The finish didn't bother me too much, because it led to a lot of heel heat for Carmella for a while, and then it kind of died down a little bit because they did nothing with her in the months that followed this moment. But it was a big win for her. I thought she was the best possible victor. She was coming along nicely as a heel. In the ring, she wasn't and still isn't all that good. I'm hoping Asuka can get a good match out of her on Sunday this year and Money in the Bank. But no, I thought that it led to a lot of heel heat, maybe for the wrong reasons. And James Ellsworth, a guy getting involved in the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match was kind of ass backwards. But it was what it was. A lot of people were very up in arms about it. I honestly could not have cared less. I thought it was something different. It didn't really bother me as much as it did many other people. And it did lead to the rematch, like I said, with Carmella putting her contract on line in a second women's Money in the Bank ladder match on SmackDown, and Carmella won that too. So also on this show, for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, we had the Usos defending against the New Day in the first of many matches between the two teams in the remainder of 2017, in the second half of 2017. This was a great match. I was going to say the match of the night, but I forgot about the main event, which we'll get to a little later on. But this was easily the second best match of the night, behind the main event, behind the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. These two teams have always worked well together. This was far from their initial encounter in WWE. They had a couple of very good matches back in early 2016 as well. Their Royal Rumble match comes to mind as well. At that point, the roles were reversed. The New Day were the heels, and the Usos were the baby faces. And at that point, the Usos were being fucking booed out of the building, and people loved the New Day. So it was the opposite here, and people loved the New Day still by this point, and the Usos were getting more and more over as the heel tag team champions. But no, this was a great match. Not their best match. I thought the Battleground match was better. The Hell in a Cell match was better. The SummerSlam match was better. So maybe the weakest, but still, it was a great fucking match. And they got, some decent time, almost 12 minutes. Not too little, but not a lot either. The finish did see the Usos get themselves counted out to hold on to the championships. The New Day were awarded the victory by countout, but not the championships by way of the standard WWE rules. You can only win a championship by pinfall or submission in a match such as this. But it was a great match up until the finish. The finish made sense because you weren't going to beat the New Day in their first championship, shot. And the Usos should not be losing the championship at this point. They would go on to drop the belts to the New Day at the Battleground pay-per-view the very next month. And that was the only saving grace of that awful pay-per-view, which I will talk about at some point, unfortunately, which means I have to rewatch it at some point. But this was a great match, nonetheless. We then had for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Naomi defending against the in-ring debut, or the re-debut, whatever, of Lana. Now, Lana did wrestle one prior match on WWE TV at WrestleMania 32. It was that women's 10-woman tag team match on the WrestleMania 32 kickoff show. She did almost nothing in the match and was obviously very protected, so we didn't get a good idea of how good she was in the ring. And there was a reason that she was kind of cast off as Rusev's mouthpiece, as his manager, because in the ring, that's not really her strong suit. She's hot, and on the mic she was good. In the ring, not so much. So it made no sense either because she did nothing to deserve a championship match. The other women had to go through the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and then Lana was given a shot at the fucking title in her first match on pay-per-view. Her first singles match on pay-per-view, but whatever. There was a lot of, interest to see how Lana would do. She didn't embarrass herself here. This was not a bad match. It wasn't that good either. But it was just kind of there. But it was better than I thought it would be. I thought this would be a total train wreck. I mean, Lana sucks. Let's face it. In the ring, she's fucking terrible. But at least here, she held her own. She was on offense for the most part. She looked good. And she wasn't humiliated. So I thought this was fine. Naomi did make her tap out, which you would think would put an end to the program. And I think in this match, I don't know if this was the match where she had her shoulder up, or maybe it was the last one. I don't remember. Or maybe she didn't tap out. But it did lead to a rematch on SmackDown that she lost in like a minute. And then another match a few weeks after that, which she also lost in like fucking 10 seconds. So they really just kind of buried Lana in a matter of a month. Probably realizing that she wasn't that good. But still, I thought this was probably her best match ever in WWE. Lana, that is. And she's getting slightly better, but she's still not good. So again, this was fine for what it was. We did get a Carmella sighting here. She did show up towards the end to distract Lana, which eventually cost her the contest and the championship. But yeah, Carmella would not cash in and would not cash in that contract until, like I said earlier, 2 days removed from WrestleMania 34. Successfully, that is. Before the WWE Championship match, we had this weird music hit the arena. Talking all about love and the power of love, and ultimately, it was revealed to be the debuting couple, or re-debuting couple, I guess, in Maria's case, of Mike and Maria Kanellis, otherwise known as Mike Bennett from TNA, the Miracle Mike Bennett, that is. He had been in Ring of Honor, Impact, on the Northeast wrestling scene. I had been familiar with him for years. I was a big Mike Bennett fan. I mean, him and Matt Taven had a good tag team in Ring of Honor in New Japan, but I became a big fan of his in Impact. I thought the Miracle gimmick was great, and he re-debuted here, taking Maria's last name. It is what it is. The whole love gimmick was kind of dead on arrival, but the guy was good. He still is good, and I thought they made a good first impression here. Everyone was talking about the theme song. The theme song was very catchy. It still is catchy. I watched Main Event last week. Mike Kanellis was on it. Came out to fucking crickets. People probably don't even remember that he's still in the company, because he hasn't been on TV in like legit a year. I know he was in the Greatest Royal Rumble about 2 months ago. He was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania, the WrestleMania 34 kickoff show Battle Royal, and that was it. I don't think he's been on SmackDown or Raw since like fucking August or September. That's terrible. That is so bad. Now, I know Maria got pregnant. I don't know if they're waiting until she gets back. Not exactly sure. But the guy's good. I mean, I enjoyed his debut here, but it went nowhere after this. He was placed in a program with Sami Zayn. The first match, which he won on SmackDown, they had a rematch at Battleground. That was all right. Sami Zayn won, and that was it. The guy was a jobber after that. And it wasn't like he was losing every week, a la Kurt Hawkins. The guy had like 2 or 3 TV matches after that against, I don't know, I didn't know he lost a tag team match. Then he lost to Bobby Roode a pair of times, and that was it. We have not seen the guy on TV since. So, I don't know. I like Mike Kanellis, Mike Bennett a lot. I think he's good. He's not world championship material, but they really could be doing more with him right now than they are. Watching this back really made me sad, because the guy has gone nowhere in the last year, and he's overcome addiction and all this other great stuff. He loves his job, he loves the WWE, but they do fucking nothing with this guy. He's not even a main event most weeks. So, again, the fact that people still say, oh, he's still employed, does not surprise me, because the guy's never on TV, and it makes me sad, because the guy had potential when he first came in. He got a good reaction here. Maybe it was more of Maria than Mike, because people remember Maria and how hot she is, but still, it was a good pairing, and she could have brought him to superstardom, at least at a mid-card level, and they went nowhere. Then Maria got pregnant, and it was all downhill from there for Mike and Ellis. Anyway, the WWE Championship match here on the show is Jinder Mahal defending against Randy Orton in a rematch from Backlash the month prior. This was much better than the Backlash match, which really bored me. This was by no means great, but it was, semi-entertaining. Probably the best match these two ever had. And Orton and Mahal have never really had good chemistry, but this was decent. I thought this was a decent match. It was laid out well for the first half. I thought Mahal was great here on offense. He was really aggressive. And that was the Mahal we needed to see more of during his championship reign. Because he was really just kind of the fucking, anti-USA, like, I'm an Indian, why won't you cheer me, blah, blah, blah. Like, we've seen this a million times dating back to fucking 1987. It's like, move on already. We really did not get the Mahal here that we would in the remainder of his championship run. I mean, what I'm saying is that we had a good version of Jinder here. I actually liked the way that he came across in this match, but that intensity we wouldn't see that intensity again, ever, in the remainder of his run as WWE Champion in the 4 or 5 months that followed. We just didn't, for whatever reason. But the match was all right early on, and then they copied the exact same finish that they did from Backlash, which isn't the worst thing ever, but it's like, come on, be more fucking creative. That was ridiculous. But we did have a bunch of legends in the crowd, from Sergeant Slaughter to Ric Flair to Larry the Axe Hennig, which is I think Curtis Axel's grandfather, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, also Randy Orton's father. They were in St. Louis, so these were all St. Louis legends. And Jinder Mahal and the Bollywood Boys, the fucking Singh brothers, they attacked the legends. They were getting in their faces, which distracted Randy Orton. And again, a lot like at Backlash, the best part of the entire match was Orton beating up on the Singh brothers. And their selling of his attack was great. The RKO on the commentary table was awesome. And then Orton gets back in the ring. He gets hit with a Colossus from Jinder, and it's over. So again, very unoriginal finish. The exact same thing we saw at Backlash, but at least it was an improvement over their Backlash match as a whole. We then had an impromptu tag team match between Breezango and the Ascension. So the story here, I guess on an episode of SmackDown prior to this point, I don't remember this. I do remember the attack, but I don't remember if it must have taken place before this. Breezango had their Fashion Files, Fashion Vice, whatever they were calling it at this point, on SmackDown. There's little segments, their weekly segments. One week, Tyler Breeze got laid out, and there was a mystery as to, who could it be? And there was talk of it being Sanity and maybe Authors of Pain. Of course, Sanity was supposed to be called up by now, and they're nowhere to be seen, but whatever. It ended up being here the Ascension, but we would later find out it wasn't the Ascension. So the Ascension faced Breezango on the show. Complete forgettable match. No one gave a shit. Thank God it only went 3-4 minutes. And then Breezango won. That was really all that mattered. Why they won by roll-up and not decisively, I have no idea. The Ascension have been dead in the water for like 3-4 years now. But whatever. It was an alright match. Didn't really need to happen, but it served its purpose as a buffer match. And then the main event, the far and away match of the night. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match between Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, and the Ultimate Victor, Baron Corbin. This might be one of, if not my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match ever. If it's not my number one, it's up there. And there's been a lot of great Money in the Bank ladder matches, of course, but this was really, really good. They got the best possible group of guys to fill out this match. Now, most of them, I think all of them actually, were already feuding coming into this pay-per-view. AJ and Owens had their issues, Sami Zayn and Corbin had their issues, and Nakamura and Ziggler had their issues. Nakamura and AJ at one point teased facing off, and they got their little duel in the latter half of the match, which the crowd went nuts for. I forgot to mention that Orton was in his hometown, so that's probably why they were livelier for his match than they were at Backlash. But yeah, the St. Louis crowd here was great for this entire match. An awesome environment. Nakamura got laid out early before coming back to face off with AJ, like I said. But when he came back out, why they hit his music, I'm not really sure. Maybe just for the pop. You would think he would just run out there before, rather than just hitting his music before he's about to come out, which I thought was a little dumb. But still led to this great reaction from the audience. Ziggler did his thing. He looked good here. I mean, the guy, he does nothing for me at this point, but I thought he had a good showing here. Owens and Zayn going at it, kind of rekindling their rivalry. AJ and Owens furthering their feud. This whole thing was great. I really enjoyed the match. In the end, Baron Corbin spoiling the party when it came down to Nakamura and AJ, climbing the ladder and retrieving the briefcase for himself. Baron Corbin, your 2017 Mr. Money in the Bank. I thought he was the best possible winner. I wanted him to win. I was happy he did win. Baron Corbin had a pretty good 2016-2017 from winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He had a great final stretch of 2016. He had those really, really good matches with Kalisto. He vied for the WWE Championship on the final SmackDown of 2016. He was involved in the Elimination Chamber main event, had a good showing there. Beat Dean Ambrose in a great match 2 days after WrestleMania on SmackDown. So, yeah, Baron Corbin had a really good, I thought, 2017 and 2016. And he was really the peak of his push. Because after this, they went fucking nowhere with the guy. He lost his feud with Shinsuke Nakamura. He lost to him twice, which he probably should have. But then he cashed in, and he lost to Jinder on the SmackDown before SummerSlam, like it was a complete afterthought, before being basically buried by John Cena at SummerSlam. So that's Baron Corbin's push for you in a nutshell, or lack thereof. And now a year later, people could not care less about him. And to be fair, at that point, Baron Corbin had his fair share of detractors, and people weren't really thrilled that he won the briefcase. But still, he had a lot more supporters at that point than he does now. I'm still a Baron Corbin fan. I like the guy, but they have really fucked up his push in the last year. How could he go from winning the main event of Money in the Bank 2017 to not being even on this year's card? That's just ridiculous. I mean, there's really no match that makes sense. We already have 10 matches on the card. I'm not saying I want to see a Baron Corbin match at this year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. What I am saying is that, oh, how the mighty have fallen from 2017 to 2018. But overall, though, I thought this was a very good show. Definitely one of the better WWE pay-per-views of 2017, which it may not be saying much, because Battleground was terrible, Extreme Rules sucked from a few years before, from a few weeks before this, which I will be talking about before Extreme Rules in July of this year. There were a lot of pay-per-views I really could not have cared less about. But this was a real good show. Between the two ladder matches, the great tag team title match, the better than expected women's match, which was by far, by no means great, but it was passable. And even the WWE Championship match was better than I thought it would be. It wasn't great, but it was what it was, and the result was what it needed to be. And Breezango got a fluke win as well as the debut of Mike and Maria Kanellis, which was cool, which went nowhere, but it was cool. So again, I enjoyed this event. I would watch back Money in the Bank 2017 if I were you, ahead of this year's installment. Other Money in the Bank pay-per-views to watch. In recent weeks, I've watched the 2013 show, which the mid-card was good, but again, what's really worth watching about that show were the opener and the closing matches. Money in the Bank 2016 was also really, really good. And of course, Money in the Bank 2011, one of, if not my favorite pay-per-view of all time, has got to be number one. That's got to be the pay-per-view you rewatch before Money in the Bank this year. Also considering that for the first time since 2011, Money in the Bank will be in Chicago this year, which is kind of why I wanted to go, because Money in the Bank 2011 was one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, and it's taking place on the 17th. The last one took place on July 17th. This one's taking place on June 17th, but still, should be a great time in Chicago this Sunday. So, that being said, folks, thank you for checking out the video. I appreciate it. As I said at the start of the video, click at that link in the description box down below for all of my WWE pay-per-view reviews right here on the channel from WrestleMania 1 up until Money in the Bank 2017. So be sure to check that out, like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel, of course, for more daily content. So I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. I think next Tuesday we're talking the 2005 TNA Lockdown pay-per-view, so stay tuned for that. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy Money in the Bank this weekend. I'll be in Chicago for the show. Hopefully my voice is not shot by next Tuesday for the next WrestleRant, and I'll catch your ass down the road.